like it's hard to think that, you know, Hong Kong has been kind of one of the freest places in the world, like for anything, for trade, for visitors. It's always been open, and it's always been a place where people can just come and go as they leave and do as they please. And suddenly it's like that's all changed, literally overnight.
I'm Dani Valent, and this is Dirty Linen, the podcast that takes the issues the hospitality industry finds hard to air in public and shakes them all about. This week on Dirty Linen, we have been travelling the world, and I am really excited today to land in one of my favourite food cities, Hong Kong. We're speaking to Janice Leung Hayes, a food writer, social entrepreneur, a farmers market founder. Born in Melbourne, she's now based in Hong Kong, but she went through lockdown #1 in New Zealand. And Janice, before we say hello to you, I'm going to dedicate this episode to Joe Moody, who introduced us and got you on board at short notice when my previous guest had an unforeseen event that made it impossible for them to join me. So Janice, thank you for stepping into the breach in Dirty Linen.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Dani.
Tell me a little bit about what's happening for you right now.
So I got back to Hong Kong about, I want to say a month ago. I think it's a month ago. So I was in New Zealand from about Valentine's Day till a month ago. So we're thinking of, we are going to gradually move over to New Zealand. So, got a house and got our lives half started there. But then kind of realized, we have to pack up a bit in Hong Kong and have to come back for work. So I came back with my husband, and we both spent 2 weeks in quarantine, just home quarantine, but still 2 weeks. So I've been out in the world again for about 2 weeks, but it feels like, it feels, I don't know, time is such a relative construct now. I don't know what it seems like. It seems like an age, but it also seems like yesterday.
Absolutely. So what's your timeline? Like, when are you thinking to move to New Zealand?
So I think for a while we've been sort of trying to kind of spend half the year in Hong Kong and half the year either in Australia, which where we're both from, or now New Zealand. But with travel becoming such a hassle these days, it might not actually turn out that way. So it's all up in the air at the moment. We're just kind of keeping it really open. We're trying to sort out our lives so that we can just lock and leave whenever. Probably in the next year or so, we'll be trying to do that, depending on, everything.
It's such a crazy time in every single way. But I know a number of people who are planning to move countries, and those plans have been derailed by COVID. It's so, I think we've been so lucky in our lives in that we've been able to just create plans, follow them through, move countries, travel to different cities, and it's so confronting to have all these have world circumstances throw these things in the air.
Yeah, I think all my life I've kind of just moved whenever and kind of, suitcase and go kind of person. So this is definitely really weird to be grounded for so long and to not have visited an airport for a while and not planning my next trip it is really, really strange. But first world problems. There are bigger problems in the world, but personally that is a bit of a change of pace for me.
Yeah, the last 2 trips I took, in fact, I was in Hong Kong with Rob Locke, my producer on this show, and we had a fantastic time. We were flown over there to go to an Uber Eats conference. It was very freewheeling. There was no particular point in being there, but of course I ate a million things and just wandered around and soaked it all up. And, the protests were happening, so there was this sort of political charge to everything. You felt like you were sort of there at a particular moment in world history as well. But there was never any sense that I wouldn't be able to jet back home or jet back there. It was all, it was real, but it was kind of a curiosity, and it never really occurred to me that my real life, the trajectory that, not that I'm a big planner, but, that I could choose my trajectory whenever I wanted. I I don't like it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, the political stuff in Hong Kong is still going on, so we're definitely still living this history. Like every day we wake up and there's some weird news about something else that's happened, and we're like, wow, our lives are like changed again. Like every day we wake up like there can't be anything worse than this, and then we wake up and like, yep, something worse than this has just happened. So so yeah, we're definitely living that history right now.
What's been happening in the last few days?
So about a week ago, Apple Daily, which is a local Chinese newspaper here, kind of known for their kind of pro-democratic stance on things, and they were searched and just basically hundreds of police just arrived at their doorstep and kind of turned it upside down, took the founder with them. I mean, he's since been released, but it's just really jarring to see hundreds of police men and women in a newsroom, basically.
Yeah, that's really, I mean,
yeah, it's a strange. It's hard to. It's hard to think that, Hong Kong has been kind of one of the freest places in the world, like for anything, for trade, for visitors. It's always been open, and it's always been a place where people can just come and go as they leave and do as they please. And suddenly it's like that's all changed, literally overnight. And yeah, it's a funny, like, scary thought. Yeah.
Was the political situation part of what made you want to move to New Zealand, or was it were you going to be a climate refugee? Like, what was your thinking there?
Well, actually, we were thinking this has been a long time coming. So before all the protests, actually, I think my husband and I just sort of thought that we wanted to spend more time closer to family. I have family in Hong Kong, but his family is mostly in Australia. And we also kind of, after about 10, 12 years of our adult lives in Hong Kong, it's a really kind of cramped and fast-paced city, which is great when you're in your kind of early 20s. And now that we're not, we kind of crave the space and this fresh air and going and just kind of going out to a farm or something, and we just wanted that, like more and more we were finding that we were craving that, so we decided that we would try and find a place to live in either Australia or New Zealand. So it's more, I guess it's a lifestyle thing, but I think I'm still quite tethered to Hong Kong in terms of work. I still, write a lot about the city. I mean, not so much recently, but but I had been. So I think we were hoping to spend some time in each place and kind of get the best of both worlds, so to speak.
Okay. Well, talk us through your experience over the last 6 months. You're in New Zealand during the first lockdown. Talk us through that.
Yeah, so actually prior to that, I was in Japan and then in France. So when I was in Japan, the virus we just heard from China that there was like a strange virus breaking out, and there were rumors saying, it's like SARS, and SARS, hit Hong Kong really badly. So we got a lot of news right away. And so my husband was in Hong Kong alone, and he basically said, well, I think when you come back, like once you come back to Hong Kong, we probably have to, let's go to New Zealand, since we wanted to go and find a house to buy anyway. So we need that time. So why not maybe take advantage of the lockdown time or like the sort of social distancing time and see if we can find our house there. So when I came back from Europe, I spent a week in Hong Kong, actually less, like 5 days, just packing a random bag. I didn't know how long we were gonna be in New Zealand. I think I had like 3 T-shirts and like a couple of pairs of jeans or something and a jacket. I was in the right mind, like in that I did have a jacket with me at least because we did end up staying in New Zealand right through till July, so well into winter, and we're in Dunedin on the South Island, so it really gets cold. So I'm glad I brought that jacket with me. So we just that's it, and we just left, and we got to Dunedin on Valentine's Day, so mid-February, and just rented a place and just started looking for a house. And we both work remotely, so it actually hadn't really been a problem work-wise. But within about a month of arriving in New Zealand went into lockdown. Like full lockdown, which neither of us had ever experienced. And Hong Kong has still never had a full lockdown. So it went to full lockdown. Everything was closed except for supermarkets, pharmacies, like really, really essential things. So no restaurants, no cafes, none of that. I think during that time we were really grateful to have been in New Zealand because like, there's a bit of space. You have a garden to potter around. You can walk around the block. You can walk down to the beach. Like it's not the worst place in the world to be locked down. Like we felt really grateful that we were there. And then after I think about 5 weeks, lockdown ended, and especially on the South Island, like things kind of went back to what seemed like normal, which was kind of odd. Everyone's lives just kind of went on as usual until I think like a week ago when New Zealand had new cases again. So they had over 100 days of like no cases at all, which was amazing. So actually, the day I bought my ticket to come back to Hong Kong, and I had to do that because I had some work. I had committed to some work earlier on in the year. And at that point, I was like, I don't know, maybe it won't even happen. I'll just go to New Zealand now. Who cares? So, and then eventually reality kind of struck me, and I realized I had to be back in Hong Kong for work. But literally the day I bought my ticket, Hong Kong had a third wave. So
wow,
yeah, great luck I have there. So I bought my ticket, and a couple of days later landed back in Hong Kong. Landing in Hong Kong was an interesting experience. They ferry you right away to a testing center where you get tested and you wait for about 10, 12 hours until the test results come back out. And all that time you have an assigned seat in a giant exhibition hall, and everyone's 1 meter apart. You're not meant to move around too much. They give you a horrible white bread sandwich like in the middle of the day, and that's about it. And just tell you
they can't even have a yum cha trolley coming. They can't even have a yum cha trolley coming along.
I know, right? I saw the trolley come along, and I was like, I wonder what it is. And it was a sandwich. It was a ham and cheese sandwich. It reminded me of school, like primary school. That's what my mom used to make me. But that
is so amazing that so instead of 2 weeks hotel quarantine, you sit in a hall for a day, get a white bread sandwich, get your test, they find out you're negative, and then you just go out into the city, go about your life?
No, so you have to stay at home. So you have to do home quarantine for 2 weeks. They give you a bracelet that has a Bluetooth functionality, and then they make you install an app on your phone. Yeah, and then they also test your phone number to make sure they can call you, and that it works. So what happens is the app kind of buzzes you every so often to turn the app on, and then there's also people at like a health department office, and they called me on the 3rd or 4th day of my quarantine, and they asked me to like take a photo of the band, the wristband on my hand to make sure I'm still wearing it, and they ask a few questions like, have you been out, and have you been have you been in contact with anyone else, blah blah, like that kind of stuff, just to check that everything's okay. And then on the 12th day, so they send you home with another testing kit that you test. It's just a saliva test. So you do it on the 12th day, so just before you leave. And then you can organize for a courier to pick it up, and then the courier will take it to a testing center. And the day you're supposed to leave quarantine on the 14th day, you get notified by the health department again that you're clear. And if you are clear, you can go. You can leave quarantine. So if you aren't, of course, then they'll like send you to a quarantine center or a hospital or something like that. So yeah, that's how it's done in Hong Kong.
It sounds like a pretty amazing, efficient system where people just really put their thinking caps on, and I guess there's they just thought, well, people just need to abide by these rules. These are the rules. They need to take a photo. It's just pretty practical.
Yeah. I mean, if you really wanted to game the system, you could, but I think it relies on people just kind of knowing that that's the right thing to do. And I mean, the Hong Kong government, I mean, they've made some strange decisions in the past kind of 6 months or so, but this quarantine thing and the arrivals kind of process is about, I think, as painless as it can be. And yeah, I think I can't really complain. I opted to actually, instead of staying in my own house, I opted to stay at my parents' because they have a spare bedroom. And it was great because my parents just cooked for me all throughout, because you can't, during quarantine, you can't go out and do shopping or anything like that. So it was like staying at like the best B&B ever.
Amazing. That sounds very good. But so now that you're back out in Hong Kong world, what is it like there? I just can't conceive of Hong Kong without being bustling.
Yeah, I mean, so there's never been like a full lockdown in Hong Kong because I think it's just too difficult. Houses here, you might know, are really small, and some people don't even have they subdivide apartments and things. So so they haven't done a full lockdown, but they've closed restaurants and bars for nighttime, for basically you can't dine in at night. You can do takeaways.
Okay.
But the restaurants are still open at lunchtime because a lot of people can't work from home, like, for example, construction workers or people in other service industries or, for public transport and things like that. So it's funny because I was saying the Hong Kong government has made some bad decisions. So actually, one of them was that they wanted to close restaurants at lunch as well. And they had to reverse that within a day because it only took a day for the media to find that there were tons and tons of people who can't work from home and who are still, they have to go to work. And they were forced to, because restaurants were closed, they were forced to eat in the strangest of places, like at public toilets, benches at the park when it was raining, just random staircases, just like at the front of the restaurant, just on the sidewalk, really. And these people they obviously they're working hard for Hong Kong. Often they're very essential workers, like construction and things like that, and like sanitation officers. And I think immediately, the media reports told the government that was just not going to work. Like, you have to at least offer daytime service of some sort, like even if it's socially distanced. So they reversed it within a day, and that's still been going on. So that's probably been 3 or 4 weeks now of that.
How are cases going in Hong Kong?
So we had a third wave when I arrived back in Hong Kong, basically, where we were getting over 100 new cases per day, and that were not entirely traceable. So that was when the restaurant restrictions and things started as well. So now we're back down. I haven't checked today actually, but I think we're back down to about 30 new cases a day. I think a couple of days ago it was 30 new cases. So it has I mean, I think the social distancing has worked to an extent. So yeah, hopefully it'll keep going down. But definitely, I mean, restaurants are definitely suffering, as a lot of industries are. But I think especially because restaurants and bars were really the only ones that were targeted for a shutdown. And yeah, I think it's been quite and there's been a lot of news about how landlords haven't been able to, or had decided not to decrease their rents, and also the government's support funding for restaurants has been quite low, or none at all. And wage subsidies, I mean, they've just announced that they will do another round of wage subsidies now. So hopefully that will help things a little bit, but definitely, definitely the restaurants and bars are hanging on by a thread, if not already closed.
Well, you've done something quite spectacular to help restaurants. Do you want to talk to us about that?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say spectacular. It's just something we thought we would do. So myself, Charmaine Mock, who is with Hong Kong Tatler, she's the editorial director of food and wine there, and then Victoria Chow, who used to own a bar and does a lot of beverage consulting in Hong Kong. So us three, we decided that we would create a recipe book with recipes from some of Hong Kong's kind of favorite restaurants. And we helped put together this book. Victoria went around Hong Kong in the sordid heat and took photos of everyone in like 4 days. So we put together this recipe book, and it's now, we're doing pre-sales. It's at the printers right now. So we're really excited to get our hands on the hard copy. So it's coming out, should come back from the printers early September. So we just started our pre-sales on Monday. Actually, was it yesterday or Monday? I mean, I'm so bad with time already, and this has just made it worse. A couple of days ago, I think, we started our pre-sale, and we sold out of our first batch for pre-sale within a few hours of announcing it. So like Hong Kongers have been so amazing, and people who love Hong Kong actually have been so amazing at supporting this. So all the funds for this book will go back to the contributing restaurants. I mean, it won't be a lot, to be honest. I mean, books I don't think I'm the first person to say that publishing doesn't make a lot of money, but I think it's something that we just wanted to do something to kind of lift everyone's spirits and have everyone, celebrate how great the dining scene is here and how important it is to the culture. And it's like eating out is a national sport. Like we talk about it nonstop. We eat out so much usually. It's such an important part of the fabric of Hong Kong. So we really wanted to do something to really celebrate that.
Yeah, I'm sure it has lifted people's spirits, and I think it's such a destabilizing time for everybody, but I think for restaurant people and for people who love restaurants. I mean, I think I really had a moment tonight because I got sent some food from Flower Drum, which I'm so grateful for, and it was some fried rice, and I put it in the pan to heat it up, and I was stirring it, and it was so fragrant. I'm going to cry as I talk about it because it was so fragrant, and it really took me back to that beautiful dining room. And it was my stepson's birthday on March 5, and I think we celebrated on March 7. So it was one of my last meals in a restaurant before Melbourne shut down. And you could feel something because, I mean, the Flower Drum's a spacious restaurant, fine dining Cantonese in Melbourne, been there for 4 decades or something. And it's spacious, the distancing sort of stuff wasn't a problem, but the waiters were wearing gloves to plate some dishes, and there was a bit of an edge, and, it was a special family occasion, but there was something even more charged about it. And one of the beautiful waiters, Barney, plated up food for us, just with such elegance and grace and amazing sense of timing. And when I was stirring this fried rice in my pan at home tonight and smelling that Flower Drum art, science, culture, history, just hospitality, it really was almost too much. And I was like, I so appreciated the food and I so appreciated the care that went into it, but I did not want to be standing in my own kitchen at home in my stupid slides and my clothes that I've been wearing for 6 weeks. Like, it's not what I want. I wanted to be dressed up and on the, there with that plush carpet with Barney with his name tag, just, looking after us. And I miss restaurants so much. But yeah, Janice, for people who don't know Hong Kong and aren't immersed in the food scene there like you are, can you just tell us why it's so special and what you love about it?
So, where do I begin? So Hong Kong, I think historically Hong Kong has always been a melting pot. It has been like an international trading port since it was founded basically around 200 years ago. So we've just had so many different influences throughout the years and so many different ingredients come in and people as well, all kind of adding. And, what moves with people is, their cuisines, their culture. And Hong Kong has just been a place that was always really open to all of these things. And also when people meet from different cultures, like new things happen. So we have our really kind of local Hong Kong food is, I would consider actually not dim sum, because dim sum comes from Guangdong, which is just north of us. I mean, we're very close to them, of course, and that's still a big part of what we do. But one of the things that really says Hong Kong to me is milk tea. So milk tea is modeled after like how the British drink tea. So you have your black tea and some milk. Hong Kongers wanted a super strong version of that. So we still use black tea, Ceylon tea, but we use like a bucket, like people in the local cafes, local diners here, they brew it by the bucket. And the tea leaves are in this giant sack, and it's just like a kilo of tea leaves and a giant pot of water, and it's super strong. And we drink it with condensed milk. So condensed milk was brought in from the trading ports, basically, like when the British started putting milk into cans, and it's not sweetened, it's not pre-sweetened, so it's a really thick milk, and so the whole thing is like tannic, it's bitter, but it's also really smooth and has creaminess to it. That to me is like the quintessential Hong Kong icon, because it just explains like how things just arrived and changed, and how it's like before coffee became a thing in Hong Kong, everyone would have milk tea in the mornings. That was everyone, like that was your thing. You would just drop by your local cafe, pick up a bun, like a soft roll, which is also the result of cultures coming together. So like it's like a bao, but it's baked, and then you get your milk tea and off you go into your day. So
so good.
Yeah. So nowadays, I mean, that's our kind of really down home local food, and then we have chefs coming from all around the world to Hong Kong, because it's an important business center. So we get lots of like high end dining that is of really, really good quality, and kind of in the past sort of 10 years or so, a lot of the younger generation of chefs have really challenged the status quo and sort of gone, okay, well, we can import everything from France, but what if we also use some local produce and with our sort of classical Western techniques, what would become of that? And that kind of the whole new genre was again created. So it's just happening all the time, all of these things. And it's just really, I think people in Hong Kong also eat out a lot, because our homes are really small, so our kitchens are tiny, and it's just easier to meet friends outside. It's easier to eat outside in general. Instead of dinner parties at home, we just meet out for dinner. Maybe there's a lot of places with private rooms or really large tables, and you can do that. Like it's just we just eat out a lot. And we love to talk about where we've been, and and where's doing something interesting and new, and yeah, it's just really it's a big part of our lives.
I don't know if I don't think it's because I'm obsessed with food, but I feel like you could stop anyone in Hong Kong in the street and start talking about food, and you could just stand there for an hour and they would say, no, not there. You've got to get it from there. And no, not this, but you've got to have that. No, it's not the right week to eat this. It's not good yet. You've got to wait for 2 weeks and eat it then. Like, everyone's very opinionated. Yeah. It's great. Like,
yeah.
Can you imagine Hong Kong not being like that? Can you imagine like a COVID Hong Kong where people are not always eating and always obsessed?
I mean, even in COVID Hong Kong, I think people are still talking about food. I think there's something like most of the people in Hong Kong are Cantonese, Chinese, and there's something in our culture that is very, I mean, we see food as well-being. It's just what you have to do it. It's not an option. And eating well is also like not an option. It's like, if you can, you definitely, it's a no-brainer. Like, if you can eat well, if you can eat things that nourish your body and and are super tasty, like, why not do it? It doesn't make sense to a Hong Konger to say, oh, I'm just gonna wolf this down because I'm really hungry right now. Like, no, you should choose something that is good for you and is tasty, and wait like 3 more minutes and you can have a great meal. It's just, I think people in Hong Kong, even now, even though we're in sort of this partial semi-lockdown, people are still trying to go out in the safest way possible, to go out for lunch, or they're trying to cook more at home, ordering from local farmers. So farmers now, because farmers markets are obviously closed, a lot of farmers are able to deliver to your house. So some people are choosing that option. And like, kind of, people are talking about cooking a bit more, which warms my heart, really. But because we do eat out way too much, and some people just have never even boiled a pot of water. But yeah, there are people trying to cook a bit more. We're still talking about, we're talking about food, but it's a little different. It's like, oh, where do you order your vegetables from now? Or where are you getting these, like, delicious Taiwanese noodles? So we're talking about where people are sourcing things now, which is an interesting conversation as well. But it's always about food.
I love it. So, Janice, what are you going to eat are you settling down near Dunedin? Is that where you've bought your New Zealand place?
Yes. Yeah, that's where we've bought. Yeah.
And so what are you excited about eating in New Zealand?
Oh, well, the produce in Otago is just amazing. They have so Dunedin has a really great farmers market that everything is local. Everything's from the Otago region. So you have everything from eggs to vegetables, of course, to people who make juices and olive oil. I mean, I had no idea they could make olive oil down there. It's so cold, but they do, and it's amazing. And like hazelnuts and the fruit, like the berries are just mind-blowing. The produce is just is stellar. And so when I was there, I cooked a lot more, but also because I had a much bigger kitchen, it was just such a joy. There's some great cafes and restaurants popping up now. So Dunedin's a smallish city, but I think in the past few years since we've been visiting, we've just noticed that every time we've gone back, there's new cafes and restaurants, and people are really proud of their local produce and heritage. And I think that's something that, that's the foundations for an excellent food scene. So I think it's definitely up and coming. Yeah.
Well, Janice, I really hope that the world comes to a place where you can spend a few months in Hong Kong and a few months in Dunedin. You can jet between them whenever you want without being masked and gloved and worried. But thank you so much for sharing your very unique perspective with us today on Dirty Linen. It's been an absolute pleasure to have a chat to you.
Thank you so much for having me. And I hope everyone can travel soon too. This new world should be for all of us.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks.
This is Dirty Linen, and I'm Dani Valent. We air the issues that the hospitality industry finds hard to talk about. We spend a week thrashing around each issue, hearing from different people with unique perspectives. We want to hear from you as well. If you have something that needs to be said about a topic, get in touch so we can include your perspective. Contact us at dirtylinen@deepintheweeds.com.au or hit us up on Insta at Dirty Linen Podcast. We can't wait to hear from you.
This is a Deep in the Weeds production.